Hi folks, John Dunn here, RPG freelancer, publisher behind Melee Via. I'm up here at Immortals Inc. with Mikey today.
What is up, John? I am feeling dreamy today.
Ooh, and you're looking it too, big boy.
And I'm cracking it with the voice. What's up?
Excellent. With that lead in, how could we not talk about Dreams and Machines from Modiphius? It's a pretty new book that just came out, uses their 2D20 system, and it's kind of like Fragged Empires a little bit in that it is a post-post-apocalyptic setting.
Post-post?
Yes.
We dealt with that before.
Yeah, we have touched on it. It is a very different take on it, though. It is isolated to a single planet where we've had a massive apocalypse and the culture is rebuilding from that. And, well, let's kind of dive into it a little bit. So Chris Birch was the lead on this. Chris is one of the primaries at Modiphius. He's the chief creative there. He's worked on Mutant Chronicles, Octone Cthulhu, Star Blazer Adventures, even before Modiphius existed, and a whole lot of other stuff. It does use the 2D20 system, which we've certainly talked about with other stuff first. I believe that first showed up in Mutant Chronicles when I was working on that with Jay Little a little bit, but Nathan Dowdell is, I believe, the head designer for all the 2D20 stuff now. It's what was used in Star Trek Adventures, and it's been in a whole lot of other things since then. So let's talk about the setting a little bit. It's rebuilding the world after kind of a mecha war. So we had giant robots who decided to basically kill all the humans on this planet.
Wow.
But rather than just being typical mecha, they were AI powered. So a little bit of Terminator feel there, where the AI decided we just don't like those meat bags anymore and tried to eliminate all of them. This happened on a distant colony world called Avera Prime. It was colonized probably about 1,000 or more years ago. But then there was this disaster that isolated it from Earth. Not real clear what the disaster was, but there were these wormhole type connections between Earth and its colonies called gateways, and the one on Avera Prime stopped working. And it's never really explained why or how in this book, which the one we're talking about today is the Player's Guide. Maybe that's stashed away as a secret bit of info in the Game Master's Guide. I don't know. Didn't get a chance to read that one yet. Even in their isolation, they had some really amazing people there, very bright scientists who managed to establish basically a utopia on this isolated colony. So they created a post-scarcity society where people essentially had infinite energy, and they had these atomic scale 3D printers so they could make anything they wanted whenever they wanted.
Okay.
Post-scarcity, post-energy. Yeah, I mean, things were pretty good.
That's pretty good.
But they needed an AI to make it all work. Yeah, and that AI just decided it didn't like people anymore. They were messy, they got in the way, and it really would have been better if you just eliminated all of them, right? Well, because of some of the tools they had on hand, humanity managed to not be completely wiped out, but a lot of people died. And they kind of had to destroy their paradise in the process in order to be able to survive. And the campaign is set 200 years after that. So that first chunk of the book, probably the first 50 pages or so, gives us that world setting and a timeline and talks about all of that. And then we get a detailed look at the geography and culture. We know that a lot of the cities were kind of abandoned 200 years ago when the robots killed everybody that was in them, right? People tend to not hang out where they're being gunned down.
Yeah, probably not. Not a good idea.
So some of these cities are just in great shape because there's nobody in them and the power still works, right? So you can go and have your characters venture into them. This feels kind of like something out of Gamma World to me a little bit, which was a classic post-apocalyptic game that originally came out many, many years ago. And then there's Wastelands from the war because there was actual physical conflict between these AI robots and humanity. We get an overview of the technology that's being used. Some of it is very primitive, right? In places you've got people beating each other with sticks, but then in other places you do have this 3D printing technology that's basically, a Star Trek synthesizer type thing where they can make stuff from the atomic level on up. And then we get an overview of the different factions that are active. So we've got just our average people, who are the Avarans, because the name of the planet's Evera, so Avarans. Then we've got a faction called the Archivists, who are basically scientists trying to recover the lost technology. We've got Spears, who are basically warriors and hunters. Dreamers, who are trying to recover the lost tech, but they're trying to do it in a sustainable, eco-friendly way. So they're kind of hippie scientists.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we've got the Rivers, who are people that travel along the rivers. Basically, they're the infrastructure for all of our logistics. And then lastly, there's basically the orcs, the bad guys of the culture are the thralls. They're a militant, subterranean outsider culture, and they're very clearly NPC only at this stage of the game. So once we get through all that history and world building bit, we get into the 2D20 system crunch of the game. We have a system-specific luck point called Spirit, and then we've got Truths as a scene-setting element. Kind of reminds me of elements of Fate, where you've got, when you're setting up a scene, you can say, hey, it's a thunderstorm, and then your characters can choose to interact with the fact that it's a vicious thunderstorm throughout the scene. And so that thunderstorm element would be a truth of it. It's kind of a neat, useful hook as you're generating a scene to kind of hang things on as the game develops through that scene. For our characters, our origins are those first 5 factions: the Avarans, the Archivists, the Spears, the Dreamers, and the Rivers. Thralls are not playable. And then we get into archetypes. So we've got Fixers. These are guys who make connections with different groups, kind of a face type character, right? They're somebody who are going to be good at negotiating, essentially. Then we have Gatherers, who are, let's call them acquisition specialists. Maybe they know where things fell off a truck. Maybe they are just good at liberating things. Grabber, which is kind of an explorer salvager type. I immediately thought of Rey from Star Wars. Guardians, who are basically soldiers, but they're soldiers who are focused in on protecting a particular community or area. Mediators, who are also kind of a face, but they're much more a leader type face. So they're going to handle more of a social, calming a situation down, finding common ground type of negotiation, as opposed to the Fixer, who's probably going to be working a commercial angle or maybe making sure they get a piece of it. And then the last one is a tech, who is basically your mechanic. After that, we get into talents and a couple advanced archetypes. We have the Weaver, who specializes in that atomic 3D printing manufacturing aspect I mentioned earlier. The Sentinel, who's kind of an advanced soldier. And the Firebrand, who's kind of an advanced face. The Firebrand feels like somebody who might be leading a cult or a social movement kind of thing. And then we get into equipment. This whole section of weapons, armor, tools, services, and even vehicles. I don't think vehicles are going to be a huge part for most campaigns, unless maybe it's a river-based one where you're going to be on one of those ships. But, if you did have a cool vehicle, that could be a real hook, because it's not going to be a really common piece of equipment here, right? After we get through all of that, then the next big chunk of the book is glyphs and weaving. This is interacting with the machines. So glyphs this is kind of your magic, your super ability in the Dreams and Machines setting. Glyphs are signs that would show up, that would direct those sleeping machines on what to do. And then weaving is working with these hyper advanced 3D printers. Now, I mentioned at the start that there had been this huge war, right? Well, these machines eventually went to sleep, but now some of them are waking up. And so you've got these inanimate mecha that are kind of backdrops to many of the locales. Well, some of them are reactivating. And as they reactivate, people have to deal with them, or else their towns get destroyed by the giant robot that decided it doesn't like people.
Sheesh. So it just wakes up ready to go?
Pretty much. Yeah. So that's kind of an interaction point for your characters to be concerned about in an ongoing way. After the glyphs and weaving section, we've got our quick reference. There's an index, character sheet, and a pretty cool map at the back. The book is hardcover. It is full color. It is lavishly illustrated. There's a lot of really cool, really thematic art as you're flipping through here. A lot of stuff with, these peaceful, some of the, violent, but then other ones where you've got just these peaceful backdrops with this giant robot that's overgrown in plants and things. Very cool to look at.
It is cool.
$45 for the player's guide here from Modiphius Entertainment. The Game Master's Guide and the starter set and the screen are all also available and on the shelf up here at Immortals, Inc. If this sounds like a cool setting to you, I know it certainly does to me. I'd recommend you stop in, take a look at it, or just hit up our website and grab it from immortalsinc.com.
Very well said, John. Come grab it post podcast. I'll see you guys later.
Till next time, folks. Good gaming.